Okay, so first of all, I wanted to give a brief explanation on what rebasing is, because most of you are probably very familiar with the concept already, but some may not. So what rebasing means is that the supply changes over time in order to get close to the target. So when the market cap is going up of a rebasing token, then the supply will go up to match that up. In our case of rAAVE, the price target is 1 hour, which means that the supply will adjust accordingly over time to make sure that one rAAVE is close to the price of 1 hour, regardless of what the market cap is. This means that there are both positive and negative. In positive rebases, the price of the token of the rebasing token, in this case rAAVE, is above the targeted price, which would be AVE in this case, and it expands the supply. So your balance as a liquid holder would go up. And in the case of negative rebases, they happen when the price of the rebasing token is below targeted price, and the supply goes down in order to adjust back to the. In rAAVE's case, the dampening factor is 10, which is the same that YAMV3 used and that people uses. What it means is that it takes the difference from the market price and the targeted price, and it divides that by 10 to calculate how much the supply should move in that. So if the market price of one rAAVE is 2 AVE, it means that it is 100% more than it should be. So the dampening factor is 10, so it will increase the supply by 10% in that rebasing. If the price of rAAVE is, for example, 0.5, which means it's 50% below what it should be, then it will reduce the supply by 5%. That's basically how it works. Are there any questions or doubts regarding how rebasing works? Feel free to ask. That's what the call is for. To basically discuss these things to get. So if nobody has any questions, I'll move on to the next thing. So the difference with the other algorithmic stablecoin rebase tokens is that it isn't trying to be pegged to anything. Rebasing to AVE, it's just a mechanism period. It's just a way to accomplish it. It's not really the main thing about rAAVE. So one key thing to remember is that there is a fee that is charged on positive rebases, which means that on the newly minted tokens in each positive rebase, 10% of it is taken by the treasury. So if let's say the rAAVE starting supply is 1,000, after rebasing 100 new tokens have been minted, this would mean that 90 tokens would go towards increasing the balances of each rAAVE holder, and 10 tokens would go towards the treasury. That causes a dilution, because if before the positive rebase you had 1% ownership, if you had 10 tokens, for example, out of the 1,000, after the rebase, you would have, in this case, 10.9 tokens out of 1,100. So your ownership percentage has diluted slightly, and it's less. That's why LP farming incentives exist. Their purpose is to level out the ownership percentage that you are holding. So if you are a liquid rAAVE holder, you will suffer from this type of dilution. But if you are in an LP, you will be compensated from that dilution that is being suffered through through rAAVE farming. So you are basically making it break even and getting exposure to the treasury expansion. So some of the tokens that the treasury collects from this positive rebase will go towards LP incentives to, like I said, level out the ownership percentage, and another part will go towards expanding the. So the way the treasury works, it's actually fairly simple. It is meant to sell the rAAVE it has when the market cap is way above the treasury worth. So if the market cap is $10 million and the treasury portfolio in itself is worth $5 million, this means that there is $2 in market cap for every $1 in treasury. So the treasury should sell rAAVE in order to increase that treasury and get it closer to. And when the market cap is below the value of the treasury, then it will automatically buy back rAAVE because you're getting a really cheap deal. For example, the market cap is $4 million and the treasury has $5 million diversified across many things. It means that for every 80 cents that it spends by backing tokens, it would receive $1 worth of. So it is net profit. And with the tokens it buys back, it can either burn them, which would result in a direct ownership percentage increase of all holders, both liquid rAAVE holders and holders, or it can use them for further LP incentives, which will also increase the ownership of those LP. Are there any questions on that part? You can talk. I mean, you don't have to. Stephen, you don't have to write it in chat. You can talk. Well, and for when it comes to the treasury itself, it's managed by the StakeGrow DAO, and which is the 7 signers. It uses a combination of a Genesis safe multisig, and instead of having fixed signers, meaning that the signers wouldn't be able to be replaced by StakeGrow holders, it uses an advanced module which is attached to this Genesis safe multisig, so that it can replace signers depending on how many votes, how many StakeGrow each signer has delegated. So if you go to governance.growdefi.com, you can see how many votes, how much StakeGrow has delegated, and if you have a StakeGrow yourself, delegate to your favorite candidate or signer. Anyone can be a candidate, and if you gather enough votes, you can become a signer. And the holdings that it would have amongst many things, it would be LP tokens of the rAAVE pools itself. So the rAAVE treasury can in itself hold, for example, Grow/rAAVE LP tokens. It can also hold Ethereum LP tokens, Aave LP tokens. So it is allowed for it to hold liquidity of its own pairs, and it can also hold PMTs, especially powerful once B2 is released, because you have a very wide range of tokens to choose from, including the most basic reserve tokens, which would be high yielding stable coins, and BTC and Ethereum, which are in you. And it can also hold more long-term tokens, which might be a little bit more illiquid, but do produce greater returns in the long run, such as staking SNX, also using the SUSD that it needs, staking CRV to receive the CRV, staking Grow, of course, holding Grow, and holding stake. So that would be the basics on how rAAVE rebasing works, how the treasury works, how LP incentives works. Just a quick reminder for anyone who isn't familiar with how rewards are compounded. It works a little bit differently to your usual LP farming. The way usually LP farming works in either Sushi Swap, 1inch, or many of the others is that you provide liquidity tokens and you will receive the token that you are farming, and you have to claim it, and then you can do whatever you want. In this case, it doesn't work that way. It automatically gets compounded into more LP tokens, so you don't have to claim anything. You can simply wait around. The rabbit that is farmed will periodically be converted into more LP tokens of the pool you are in, and whenever you want, you can withdraw it to either of the pairs. We have also added the option to both single asset deposit and single asset withdraw, which means that if you are going into any pool, if you are going, for example, into the Ethereum rAAVE pool, you can deposit directly with either just Ethereum or just rAAVE or both, and it will automatically convert it at the best current rate to the LP level. So that's really comfortable to use because you don't actually have to do the entire process of swapping approximately half of your tokens towards the opposite pair, and then going ahead and providing the liquidity on Uniswap, then changing the UI to deposit the farm tokens. You can do it all in a single transaction. It's quite easy to use, and the same thing for withdrawing. You can directly, if you are holding, for example, farming LP tokens of the Grow rAAVE pool, you can directly withdraw them and get Grow or just rAAVE. So that's quite easy to use. And that would be a really brief overview of rAAVE, but I think it can give the idea how it works, so it basically focuses on incentivizing liquidity providers by maintaining we have. The pools will have a very deep liquidity, so it's quite easy to get in and out. And the way the treasury works is actually quite a straight profits with the token it holds through yielding tokens to taking options, and it uses the sell function to expand the treasury when the market cap is a lot higher than the treasury, and it buybacks tokens when the treasury is higher. Any questions on rAAVE or any thoughts that?
Yeah, me, Safe. Apologies for the sound. It's probably not that good. But
Don't worry. It's
I'm
okay.
using a headphone, so you always have issues with impermanent loss if you supply tokens to a pool. For example, you might be able to long rAAVE and in this case rAAVE, but I'm always afraid that you might be better off than just longing ETH and rAAVE, for example, than supplying your tokens to a pool and then get the rewards. The rewards are less than the impermanent loss that you might suffer.
Okay,
What are your?
so I get your point. And for those who didn't know this, providing liquidity in a Uniswap type pool, automatic market maker, are basically shorting volatility, which what it means is that you are betting that the price won't move a lot into either direction, either up or down, versus the opposite pair, because that's volatility essentially. So if the price remains more or less close to the initial prices, then you will have very little cost in terms of impermanent loss. And if it moves a lot, then it will become a significant portion. So there is no way to mitigate completely impermanent loss. That's why incentives are given. You have on one side the swaps fees themselves. So that's basically the premium you are collecting for shorting the volatility on that specific pair. then you have the incentives that are given, which is how rAAVE works. And finally, if you are in a pool that has B2 tokens in it, which these three initial pools don't have any B2 tokens in it. They are just plain rAAVE, Ethereum, and Grow. But all future pools will likely be with B2 first. So when we add a BTC pool, such as rAAVE BTC, it will most likely be the B2 version of it, pegged to rAAVE. Same thing for stablecoins tokens. I'm not sure if that answers your question. Does it answer your question?
Sorry, I misclicked. Yeah, I understand impermanent loss. It's just more that it's hard to mitigate, especially with these kind of pools. And if, for example, if you enter a pool and the rewards might be 30% a year, then 9 out of 10 times you're better off than just buying and holding the token. For example, Bitcoin, let's assume it goes up a lot higher than it is right now. Then rAAVE should go up at the same pace, or you might be better off than not providing liquidity at all and just stick to Bitcoin, for example. So right now, if you provide liquidity, you bet on the fact that rAAVE will go up and hopefully grow at the same pace or at the same rate. But it might be possible that the rAAVE doesn't go up as much as Grow, and then you might be better off just holding Grow or put it in stake Grow. So that's always a gamble, of course. And if it plays out, you get nice rewards. But I find it hard to determine what could happen to rAAVE in this case. Let's hope for a lot of exits, but providing liquidity like this is there's more to it than just throwing your money in and it works, because it might not be the best option to do. So that's more my concern.
Yes, correct. It's basically a trade-off that you are doing, and it is meant to level out itself, because if you have less liquidity providers, so if less liquidity is being provided in general, then obviously the APYs are going to go up, and if more liquidity is being provided because people think that it is a better opportunity than just holding onto the token liquidity, then the APYs are going to go down. So it basically regulates itself. If people think it's not worth it, then the APYs will go up to compensate it. And if people think it's really worth it, then the APYs will go down to compensate. It works just like that. Hope that solves.
Yeah, but in this case, most of the times, if there's a high API, more people join, more volume, but the volume is spread onto all of the people that joined. So in the end, you'll probably have a pool that's on average compared to other pools, because if you get too low, people leave, and if you become high, people join. So do you know what the average return is on a pool on fees?
Well, the APY, like I said, depends on those three factors. One would be the swap fees compared to the liquidity. So it not only matters how much volume there is, but how much liquidity is there to share those fees. With the higher liquidity for the same amount of fees, then the lower the APY will be for. Then the other side would be the rAAVE incentives. Finally, the yield that is coming from the B2 PMTs, if it's a pool that it's holding. So no, there isn't really an accurate way to predict how much they will be. I do think they will be decent, probably above 50%, but that's just a percent guess. Just a be lower, it could be higher, and some pool may be a lot lower, and some pool may, and it also varies widely. So I can't really give you a fixed amount of yield or a fixed APY, because I don't even know. We will have to see the exact numbers come out and how they evolve.
Yeah, and luckily you can exit quite easily too. If it's not what you want, then exit is
You
a
can
few
always
steps.
switch out, and if the liquidity is deep, then you shouldn't have to suffer from much slippage. I see one question in chat. Why did you choose Aave as the first product to rebase? What will be the next rebase token? Okay, so first of all, there aren't going to be any more rebase tokens because, like I explained, rebasing to Aave is just a mechanism that we have to expand and contract the treasury and also to reward LPs. It's not that we want to have every base token for every token out there. So if you were thinking that there would be a rebasing token for Aave, another for Ethereum, another for BTC, it won't be the case. We just need one because the mechanic itself is what we are looking for. And we chose Aave because, first of all, it represents very well the DeFi market. It's one of the highest DeFi tokens by market cap. It also has a very low inflation rate. If you look at the supply compared to the total supply and everything, then it has one of the lowest sell pressures because it doesn't have farming implemented at the moment. You have a lot of liquidity for it, and also since it's a money in market protocol, it has exposure to many of the things that make DeFi great. So you have lending and borrowing on one side, you also leverage trading, like margin trading on another, you also have your farming. So basically, it's the best representation of DeFi itself. And we could have chosen the DeFi pools index instead of Aave, but the issue with that is that it holds some tokens which are actively being farmed and down. So we believe it's better to just stick with Aave. And in this case, it's very important to choose it as a rebasing token because it would be one of the most incentivized pools. So we want to have a token, in this case Aave, that will do well in the long run. So that rAAVE is linked to that performance too. That's why. I hope that's your question. Are there any others or any comments I would like before we move on to PMT speech 2, how they synergize with everything? Oh, one last thing I wanted to say is how Grow benefits from rAAVE. So you have multiple points. First of all, the farming contract that compounds the liquidity and everything, it's after all a type of G-token strategy. So it does have a performance fee. The default one set at 10%, but this could be changed in the future, probably to a lower one. But we will have to see how much it has. And basically what it means is that the Grow Treasury is actively getting LP tokens of all the rAAVE incentivized LPs. So if it is automatically building it. So if there are, for example, $5 million in LPs and the APY, the average APY among is 50%, then 10% for performance fee would mean that it is getting around 5% annualized fees on that $5 million, which would be $250,000 worth of liquidity per year. So it's actually a great revenue source for Grow and its treasury to later do buybacks. Yeah. Then you also have the fact that the rAAVE treasury is managed by the Stakegro DAO, so that also increases the worth of a Stakegro as a governance token. And well, of course, if the rAAVE treasury holds any PMTs V2 tokens, it is not only getting yield on them, but it is also adding to the fees collected by the Grow protocol. And same thing with the incentivized LPs that have VC. So as a whole, it is a big revenue source for Go. It can collect a substantial amount over time. Whilst, of course, rAAVE itself, it's also benefiting from the yield opportunities and everything that Go has. So that's why they synergize so well. One has the means to actually grow the portfolio. In this case, it would be PNTSB2 and other types of strategies that grow DeFi offers, and the other has the capital. In this case, both the LPs and also the holdings of the treasury. So that's why they synergize so well too. I leave 1 minute in case someone wants to ask any questions, or feel free to comment on things, your opinion. This is a community call after all. And if there is anyone who wants to speak, we can now speak. Okay, so if nobody wants to speak, I'll move on to PMTSB2. In a nutshell, what they are is the next logical version of V1. So V1 was a good start, but the problem with it is that the gas costs are high, and they're high because it wasn't fully optimized for it, and this is something that happens to all the other GIL algorithms too. It's not just V1. Okay, and it also had the 1%. Well, it has, because it's live at the moment. It has a 1% deposit and withdrawal fee, which made it less appealing to some individual users to use, because they don't want a very high entry barrier, even though it will mean higher rewards. They prefer a lot more flexibility and having the option to just be in a pool for a week or just. So that's where B2 comes in. First of all, we have a lot of gas optimization around the world. So previously on B1, the gas costs were approximately 370,000 gas for a non-rebalancing deposit or withdrawal, and this has been lowered to below 100K. I don't have the exact numbers yet because we still have to test and perfect some things, but it will likely be below 100,000. So that's close to a 75-80% reduction overall. And especially now that Ethereum is at all-time highs and the gas prices don't seem to have slowed down. The gas is really important, and it can, on average, save between $30 to $50 for every deposit and withdrawal, which is a significant amount and considerably already. The next thing that has been done is removing the deposit and withdrawal fees. So now it's 0% fee to enter and 0% fee to withdraw, which gives a lot more flexibility. We have also remodeled the way that rebalancing for PMTs works. So for anybody who isn't familiar with what PMTs are, they stand for portfolio management tokens, and their goal is to aggregate different yield strategies for a token and to maximize it. So, for example, the PMT of Ethereum may be using a curve strategy as the default one to generate a high yield. For example, the most profitable ones at the moment for Ethereum are the STF and the SETH curve pools, but it can also have a lot of backup strategies in case these ones either stop working or their yield gets too low or anything else. For example, in IP Ethereum, Alpha or 2, adding GC Ethereum, rAAVE strategies with Ethereum, a lot of other things. And in terms of
previously there was no performance fee, there was no management fee, there was just a 1% deposit fee and 1% withdrawal fee. Now that has changed. There are no longer any deposit and withdrawal fees. There aren't management fees, so the profit that the user makes and the fees that are charged onto the user.
The protocol itself isn't making fees either, and they are charged at the strategy level. So to illustrate how that would work, let's take the PMT of DAI, for example. So first of all, the DAI would flow itself, then most of it would go to the default strategy. It could be a curve strategy that uses DAI with certain pool, and it would compound, in this case, the CRE rewards, the trading fees, and the lending APY within the token holds in the pool, and the performance fee is collected on. So the growth treasury in itself collects the performance fees in the strategy token. It doesn't collect them in the PMT. So in this case, it would receive strategy tokens that represent curve LP tokens within a certain pool, which could then later be withdrawn, reused for anything else, including buybacks of Go, and then distributions towards stake Go. So on a stake Go, as many of you already know, you have the basic structure of 10% the staking fee in and out, which is to incentivize only long-term holders to have stake Go. This is a really key part because the DAO depends on it, and also both the rAAVE and growth treasuries depend on it. So you don't really want to have malicious actors that might be interested in just buying the token to manipulate the governance. And it has an increase in rates both from the fees that are incoming and also from the holdings that the treasury has. For example, if the Grow treasury is holding some LP tokens for the Grow rAAVE LP, then some of the profits it makes there can later be used to buy back Grow and send it to the stake Grow contract to increase the Grow rate. And same thing with the performance. So one thing that differentiates Grow from other yield aggregators, such as Farm and all the others, is that it doesn't offer farming rewards native token, which means that you won't be getting any Grow when you are using PMTs V2 or anything else. And this lowers significantly the sell pressure on the token because you don't have people which are, in this case, farming Grow and dumping it on the open just to profit a little bit extra. And if you combine that with the fact that once B2 is implemented, there will be a constant stream of fees which are used to increase the price of Grow and also to take it out of the circulating supply, moving it to stake Grow holders, then you have a nice review on both how B2 PMTs and how rAAVE will work. So I have finished my pitch per se, and if anybody has questions or wants to talk about anything or anything else, then feel free to do so.
I know some people were asking about automation and how that takes a role in this, but I mean, it's really not possible, is it? There's no flexibility if you're building automation into this, and it probably would increase risk having more complex smart contracts. So I get why there's so much manual stuff going on.
Well, I'm not sure which part are you referring to, but most of the things are are automated. For example, the rAAVE LP contracts, instead of having you claim the tokens itself and then choose what to do with them, it automatically compounds them into more LP tokens. Same thing with the other factors. For example, PMTs V2, you have several functions. So on one side you have the most used functions, which would be the deposit withdrawal one, which are optimized for gas. Then you also have the rebalancing function, which works to if there's an excess in liquidity, which means that there are a lot of liquid tokens held by the PMT contract, that you can call the function to move some of those tokens to the default strategy to basically increase the APY that it generated. And if there are very few tokens, which means that the liquidity on the contract is low, and that could hurt the withdrawals, because if you are trying to withdraw more than the liquidity amount available, you won't be able to. You would have to first trigger rebalancing, recalculate the reserve rate, and then be able to withdraw it. So I'm not sure which part are you referring to with automation. Most of the things are actually.
Yeah, I was referring to like the buybacks and distribution back to stake roll holders and stuff like that.
Yes, that has to do with mainly the gas.
Yep.
Because you can't do it efficiently in order to transfer, for example, from Curve strategy tokens back to Grow and then sending it to stake Grow. And also, you can't really have very predictable buyback times unless they are a really constant stream, because you will have front runners and arbors taking advantage of the situation. If, for example, you were to know that $100,000 worth of Grow would be buyback at an exact time, then you would see a lot of front running before that. So, and that's why we have the sticker DAO with the because they are meant to be the most trusted members by the community, by stakeholder holders.
Are you still there, Safe?
I have a question. Will the isolated strategies still be accessible for advanced users?
Hey, Safe, can you still hear us? I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah. Safe. Hello, hello.
He's coming back. Can you hear us now?
Hello?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you again. Okay, I will ask my question again.
Yes.
Will the isolated strategies still be accessible for advanced users? I mean, they might not show up in the front UI, but yeah, are they still accessible somehow?
That's a good question, and some strategies may be limited and whitelisted for PMT use only, because it also limits the possible exploit opportunities by only allowing the treasury and or bridge contract to use it. But there will be some strategies, especially for farming LPs. So to put an example, if we are talking about a G token that automatically compounds the sushi tokens farm, the sushi piece or 1 each LPs, then that would be something that would have its own strategy. So whitelisted strategy tokens that only PM the treasury can use, and also public strategy tokens which anyone can use to build up their portfolio.
So did I get it right that only some of the isolated strategies will be accessible by public, and some of them might only be accessible for the treasury?
Correct. Yes. Not all of them will be accessible by everyone, because if the user base isn't going to be there, then it's actually safer to just leave it to the original. That's why some might be just whitelisted for those specific contracts that is used, and others may be public so that anybody can use them, especially for LP farming. But if you want to increase your DAI stack, for example, the most straightforward will be just using the PMT of DAI. The strategy tokens will be used more for non-single asset tokens, so mainly tokens.
Okay, thanks.
So I think we can wrap the community call up. But if anybody to something before, feel free to.
How are things going with the new developer? Is that all good?
Yes, all good in that front. The UI developer.
Hey, Corin.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, just want to give an update with the UI and the new UI developer. Yeah, I mean, Richard just joined like the last week. He's a very senior guy who has a lot of expertise in this UI stuff. He's been like adapting to this DeFi, so we had a period to like catch on. Right now we're working together to on the rAAVE UI, but I mean things are going well overall.
Awesome. Thanks for all
Yep.
your hard work, man. I know it's been a long road. You too, safe.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. we're here for the long term, dude.
So I have one more question. When rAAVE is released, what's the marketing plan?
Can you repeat the question, please? I didn't hear it.
Okay. When rAAVE is released, what are the plans for marketing? Getting the word out, maybe something more aggressive to compare to other protocols. What's the plan to get more people in?
Well, like I've said before, of marketing, but the general idea, more marketing through the general channel, for example, written articles, YouTube.
You're kind of breaking up a lot.
Okay, I agree that I'm not really the one in charge of marketing, but the general idea to push forward more written articles and more YouTube. Because I think that with V2, especially once people try it out and see the actual kind of getting in and out and how it's to actually use them and profit from it, that would be the building block. Also the part.
Yeah. So to complete Save's ideas, I know we're maybe we have a new designer on the team. That's what we're looking, just to give more identity to this rAAVE and general growth project. And I guess Mike has mentioned some plans for the marketing. I'm not sure if we can disclose everything, Mike, if you're here on the call. But yeah, there's a marketing plan.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, guys? Can you hear me?
Yep. Hey.
Yeah, as far as the marketing going, I'm really excited to let you know that we're going to start the marketing really heavy starting on Monday, this following Monday, the 25th, and really ramp up during the week. We have a really good lineup of influencers that are all really great guys. I've got on many calls with each one of them, so we don't, have anything like Crow's verse video, which he completely redeemed himself for and everything through his following ones. But yeah, I've personally got on the call with all the different influencers that we have lined up, and really, got down to what we're all about and everything, and getting them on board. And they've all been very excited with what we have in store, and they're all very excited to even use the product themselves and then do updates within their following videos and everything, and see how their investments are doing and all that. So no, I'm really excited with the marketing for this. It's been a very easy sell, quote unquote, to the different influencers and everything. It's quite a technical, but at the same time simplified thing that we're doing with rAAVE. Yeah, if there's any other questions towards the marketing, we have a whole bunch of write-ups coming out and pre-rolls throughout the week that will really ramp into deep dive videos just before the launch of rAAVE. Is there any other questions towards the marketing?
Were the influencers mostly excited about using rAAVE, or were they also excited about using the PMTs or version 2?
Yeah, definitely both. I mean, for first things first, the main focus is rAAVE, but I have explained to them everything that's coming down the pipeline with PMT version 2s, and just the idea of within this crazy space of spending an arm and a leg on the gas fees and everything. With what we're doing with that, they're very excited to see that, and that's very marketable just in itself. But then, I mean, the yields that we'll be able to put out on those are, I mean, quite excitable for people.
Yeah, exactly. I would be so excited to see influencers doing follow-up videos on their yields, showing off the yields. That would be pretty much a big deal in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, for a lot of the influencers that we're talking to right now, rAAVE has been a great way to open the door with them and grow a relationship, which can then turn into the more difficult stuff, understanding the ins and outs of the growth DeFi ecosystem, which we all know is quite insane at times. But the way that Safe lays it all out for us and everything has been amazing. And yeah, through the relationship growing with these different influencers that I'm talking to through rAAVE will definitely, they'll be, their ears will be more open to getting into the technical stuff of growth DeFi.
I have another very speculative question for Safe. I remember you mentioned the potential stablecoin in the future, but yeah, nothing's set in stone yet. I'm just wondering, what kind of...
Can you repeat it? The connection is breaking up a little bit.
Okay. I remember you said that there might be a potential for a stablecoin within the ecosystem. Nothing's set in stone yet, but I was just wondering what kind of level we need to reach to make this possible. Like, for example, is there some number for the treasury or something you have in mind where you feel at this point this is getting a realistic scenario?
Well, I mean, there are many options for the future of growth DeFi, which I don't really talk about them most of the time. The stablecoin part that we want, which in a nutshell would be wrapping up an index of within a more marketable and friendly to use token, which you can simply hold and expect to the dollar and it rebases positive every day or every few hours, and you are basically just holding it in your wallet like DAI or USD. It automatically goes up, and the treasury can profit from the difference rate between B2 and the actual rate offered for it. And it would have to include insurance cover and other things to make it safer. But yeah, it's just an idea. It could take off if we have, first of all, a good size treasury, because we would be backing it. Secondly, a larger community, larger user base, larger in general. But I think above 100 million TDL, maybe around 10 to 20 million treasury assets held that exclude liquid grow holdings would be a feasible point to consider actually add it as a. But like I said, it's just an idea that most likely will never be implemented, but it's something to keep in mind that could guide others.
Okay, thanks. I think I got an idea of the potential requirements we would need to start something like this. But yeah, I hope you follow up on this idea. I think there is a huge potential inside this idea.
Are there any other questions? It doesn't have to be related with rAAVE or PNTSB2. It could be just general questions about grow, how it works, what its value, or anything. It doesn't have to be specific to the thing discussed.
So Saif, one question here, and because I think most people here will be interested in hearing this. So, I mean, with the release of Optimism of the layer 2, I mean, I'm not very catch on this development, but will it be possible to migrate some of Grove's ideas into L2?
Okay, so Optimism is a type of rollups. They call it rollups.
Okay.
And they have been working for several months with synthetics and preparing a demo. You see it, and it recently went live on mainnet with synthetics staking actually being live right now. And they are adding more features such as adding the exchange itself. I'm not sure how familiar people are in general with synthetics and their synths actually work. Exciting in my opinion. And building there would become a feasible option. There is the necessary composability. Something I talk a lot about in chat when people ask about whether we are jumping into other blockchains or everything else because gas fee is high. But it really depends on the Ethereum is currently great if you exclude the gas fees because it has precisely that. You can earn yield with Compound, with rAAVE, with Kirby, with Balancer, Uniswap. You have a ton of protocols which you can accrue value from, that you can accrue, which is something that any other blockchains or layer 2 solutions. So that's why I'm closely following it. And it becomes a point where it is feasible to build a product. It could be just 14x.
Okay, that's nice.
The MTBT model into a layer 2 solution like Optimism, or it could be something else. But it will become feasible as more protocols develop. We don't have to be the first one to join the trend. You can simply optimize gas fees, have been doing on layer 1, and watch closely to jumping at the right. Sometimes being early can also be a disadvantage. There is no rush.
Okay, that's nice. Thanks, Saif.
And if there are any other questions, go ahead and ask them. We can close the call around 1 hour.
Thank you again for all the hard work you
Well,
guys have put into this. Irv, Mike, Safe, everybody else.
well, that's our job, so don't worry, we'll keep doing it. So
Thanks, Corey.
if nobody else, I think.
Okay, thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, Stephen.
I come up with